We have news headlines about Ripple blowing up. At the same time, for different reasons, we have headlines about Bitcoin blowing up too. As we see the adoption, the money, the usage of people getting into cryptocurrency, besides massive volatility, what else can we come to expect? Let's discuss. Hey everybody, I'm Gary Palmer Jr., you're you, and together we are Minting Coins, your trusted source for crypto news and what is happening in Bitcoin and blockchain technology. In today's show, we're going to be talking about Ripple, what's happening with that, how Ripple has momentarily superseded Ethereum in its total market capitalization, something that is not new, that's something that has been done before, but happening again and seeing billions of dollars enter the cryptocurrency markets in the past couple days, people are really starting to wonder what's happening. And with that, all we know is that there's going to be a lot of volatility, as everyone sort of says, as the big joke goes around. We're all 100% right when we realize that the price can go up, the price can go down, the price can stay the same. While we have been seeing a lot of sideways movement, sideways momentum, we also recognize that, May 23rd, 2020, a year from May, we are going to reach the next Bitcoin halving. And before that time comes, we're expecting to see a huge amount of money enter the Bitcoin space, the cryptocurrency space, in anticipation of this massive convergence of where supply and demand come together. And we expect to see a ton of institutional money flow into crypto from emerging markets, from traditional markets, from stocks and bonds, and into Bitcoin directly, into Ethereum, Ethereum Classic, into Zencoin, Zencash from the company that is now known as Horizon. And the reason I mention these guys is because these are the assets that have this institutional capital backing it up. They have the Wall Street money, these vehicles that are already in place so that the institutional money can easily flow into each of these very large cryptocurrencies, these assets, these blockchains, and these projects that are out there. So when all of this money flows into Bitcoin, we think that by and large, 95% plus of all of this money is going to pump into Bitcoin. This is the name that everybody knows. This is the name that everybody trusts. This is what people have been accustomed to hearing in the news, for the past 2, 3, 4, 5 years, since all this ruckus has been coming about Bitcoin and its potential to disrupt global financial systems and global markets by being this peer-to-peer technology, this decentralized technology, this protocol, which has this one defining feature of being immutable. You can know what the monetary policy of the Bitcoin asset is going to be. You can understand the variables and predict the variables of the Bitcoin blockchain within reason, and know what factors are going to change. And at the same time, that those factors, those variables, even though they may become more expensive and they're promised to become less expensive, even though we know that it could become slower, but it's promised to become much faster, what we understand is, all things considering, what it does promise to do, what Bitcoin does promise to do, is to be immutable and to not change unless the vast majority of users are neglectful of it or allow that Bitcoin protocol to change. So with all of that being said, and what's happening into the markets, let's take a peek into some of these headlines. So starting off over here, taking a peek at the top 100 cryptocurrencies at coinmarketcap.com, we can see that Bitcoin is up 4.5%. We can see Ethereum is up 8%. We see Ripple, XRP, is up 52%. Earlier, we saw it in terms of US dollars being up about 100%. We saw it in terms of Bitcoin supply being up 90%. And we saw it overtake Ethereum as we go live with this recording right now. It's now below that position, but it could very well come back. This is very, very volatile. There's lots of money that's been entering the space recently. A competitor to Ripple, more of a decentralized competitor to Ripple. We have Stellar XLM up to 17% as well. We have Cardano 88 coin up 11.5%, seeing major moves in the market, and with across the board. Dash, Monero, Litecoin, EOS up 9%. Even Bitcoin Cash, a ton of money going into that, up 12%. So there's a lot happening in the space. We see that the current price per Bitcoin is still under $7,000, $6,700, but jumping a few $100s with over $6 billion in volume in the past 24 hours. And so with this, this is just going to gain a lot of attention, and a lot of people are going to wonder, is this the end of the bear market? Are we about to enter the next bull market from crypto? A lot of people know that BAKKT is going to be releasing next month. And with that, that's going to allow a lot of institutional money to go into Bitcoin, which would have a direct effect on the price, since the BAKKT product is going to be futures, futures backed and asset housed. They're actually going to be holding the actual digital asset, not a digital USD representation. So here real quick, you can see the overtaking of XRP to ETH, with the total market cap being a few hundred, about $400 million higher for just a small period of time there. So with that, and with what's happening in the cryptocurrency markets, we're also seeing other headlines come out today about Bitcoin and about this hack or this exploit that was existing in the Bitcoin code. We retweeted this tweet over here from the Blue Matt Corello, that has the full disclosure of the full details of Tuesday's release, including everything that's happened in terms of the timeline, the responses to that timeline, and what they've done in order to immediately mitigate and resolve the possible attack that could happen on this code. And so there was a couple realizations. And so this is an attack that has not been executed. And this is an attack, an exploit, where the resolution has already been released. And now lots of people are updating their full nodes, their Bitcoin full nodes, to prevent this attack from ever happening in the first place. And so this, there were a couple different things happening in there, but it could have allowed for a double spend attack to happen. And if that double spend attack was to happen, then it would have allowed the creation of, an inflation of Bitcoin, possibly new Bitcoin created. And with that, that's just a testament to the fact that this is all very, very early in Bitcoin technology, into Bitcoin code. And everyone needs to realize that with Bitcoin, the blockchain, Bitcoin, the asset, with Lightning Network, this is code, this is protocol that's still in the beta phase. This is still in the testnet phase. If Bitcoin, BTC, and ETH, and Lightning Network, if any of that was comparable to TCP/IP, this would have been before 1984, before 1983, before ARPANET had adopted TCP/IP to be the main protocol of the internet. We are going to reach a point when users around the world recognize the power, recognize the strength, the distribution of the technology, the open source, open protocol of Bitcoin, and they register BTC, ETH as the protocols of trust, of trustless systems between people, organizations, artificial intelligence, and all of these internet connected devices in the world of the Internet of Things that we're moving forward into. And so in order for all of these systems to understand the code, the relationships, the smart contracts between each other, these are the protocols that we think are going to be adopted on top of the internet technology that we are all currently using right now, on top of TCP/IP, on top of and with SMTP, the email protocol. We see how ENS, the Ethereum name service, and Ethereum is actually getting integrated right now, fully integrated right now not that we're talking about this, but fully integrated with .xyz domain names, and with the possibility of getting integrated with practically any single top-level domain name that exists out there, including .com domain names. So this is all beta software. This is software that anybody can look into, that anyone can review. And another interesting detail is that an anonymous user actually reported this bug on September 17th, which was, last Tuesday. And so any user can look at this code. Any user, millions of people around the world, really there's billions of people, right? But there's millions of people who can look at this code and have some idea of what they're looking at. If you have ever taken even an HTML class, you can go over to the repository, to the Git repository, to look at this code and to understand that there's this open source code that you can actually look at, that you could potentially find a bug in, that you could report to the world, that you could get a bug bounty credit for finding, and that you can add to your street cred or just help the community. There's lots of different reasons why someone would report it, but the point is that anybody has the potential to find it and then to report it to the community. And more often than not, I think that what we see is that people have altruistic intentions, and that they want to be people who are helping the system, not people who want to destroy the system, because really nobody has a vested interest in the system being destroyed. But I just suppose that there are some people out there who fit that criteria. So real quick, if we go over to coin.dance and we check out the nodes and the node versions out there, we can see who's upgraded their node to the latest version of all, what version of Bitcoin. And so right now, the latest version is 0.16.3, not 1 point something, because again, this is beta software, but it's 0.16.3. So if you are running a Bitcoin full node, make sure that you upgrade, and let's see this node count increase with more people. Even though we have 100% of all the Bitcoin nodes out there running the latest consensus rules, let's get a higher percentage of the Bitcoin full nodes that are running the latest version of the software. Checking out other news, if we go to Craigslist, we see more and more people allowing cryptocurrency to be acceptable, for cryptocurrency to be okay for their Craigslist posts, no matter what it is that they're selling, different places around the world. And we see a greater and greater movement, a greater and greater awareness, a greater and greater adoption for Bitcoin, for cryptocurrency, for blockchain technology. And as we were saying before, there is just massive amounts of money right now that's being entered into the cryptocurrency space, over $20 billion in the past couple days alone. And as we recognize with Ripple, a huge amount of capital moving into Ripple, XRP. A lot of people are really wondering what's happening with the market. A lot of people are looking at what people are saying, including Mike Novogratz out there, who's really calling this as being the bottom of the market, the bottom of the Bitcoin market, even though it could go down a little bit further. Or again, this could just be a midterm rally before we reach lower lows, really on this trajectory of Bitcoin exploding as we get closer and closer to the Bitcoin halving that we were talking about earlier in the show, and really getting deeper and deeper down the timeline, down further stretches of this runway that these teams and these technical teams and business-minded teams are really using to, this bear market time to develop technology, to develop programs for the coming bull run, really making sure that the systems are in place to allow the incoming, onboarding and on-ramping and off-ramping of people into the space of, consumers, both commercial and consumer, into the market space. And so as we are getting other news in the markets talking about how the VanEck, SolidX ETFs delayed again because the SEC is now seeking these comments on the fund's proposal. Every time we are expecting that the market, that average folk, that the news is expecting the SEC to release some sort of information, the SEC is just moving the goalposts or pushing that decision a little further down the road. We are just getting more and more pressure from all aspects of the market for this ETF to come out. And I am sure when they are ready for this ETF to come out, it will come out. But let me tell you, this is not something that we need. This is not something that truly matters in the long term, right? In the short term, this could have a huge effect, and that's not necessarily a good thing. You want to be accumulating as much Bitcoin as possible before something like this happens, before, you know, Bitcoin goes through its next pop, because every 4 years that we get closer to this Bitcoin halving, the Bitcoin price is going to pop. And so we are certain that this ETF will get approved before that happens, because that's when the institutional money is really going to want to be in the space to take advantage of what it sees as a huge potential to make impressive gains. They don't even care about the technology. They just recognize Metcalfe's law is in place here. They recognize that there are just economic variables that Bitcoin has that just gives it a huge potential to pop. And, you know, while everyone is just really focused on the ifs and the whens that this is going to happen, you should, in my opinion, just not really let this information sway you in, you know, your strategies, and for you to be focused on your decisions and where you think blockchain is going. And I hope that, you know, when you're thinking about it, that you're really thinking about the long term. You're thinking about not the next year and a half halving, and not even the halving that's going to happen, you know, for 6.5 years from now, but you're really thinking about 10 years down the road, 12 years down the road, and where we could be in a full-fledged blockchain internet-enabled world. And just to underscore this real quick, we have Omar Bam over here from Cryptos News, who popped out this theory not too long ago, where he says that with this theory that he has, that BAKKT, this new company, ICE, was recently announced earlier that is expected for a quick November release. It's actually going to be delayed, is this theory, and that the market will dump. And that BAKKT knows this and wanted a hand in that manipulation they saw. And now they're going to open up the shorts after hyping up many, and then they're going to score more BTC by just playing that game and by, you know, using that information and that power and that position that they have in a market to potentially do what Omar is talking about in this theory here. So as we talked about in another show, and we like to reference often, however much Bitcoin you have, there's not a lot of other people in the world that have as much Bitcoin as you. So if you just have 1 millibit of Bitcoin, there's only 19,000 addresses that have that. And if you wanted to pop up in that percentage of the number of people, the number of addresses, Bitcoin addresses in the world that have as much Bitcoin as you know, if you have this much, just try to get to the next layer, try to get the next layer after that. And it's really difficult. You know, it's like a lot of people in this world have child support payments. They don't have enough disposable income to go to the movies, let alone enough disposable income to invest into something like stocks or cryptocurrency, especially if this is something that someone is new to. Nevertheless, if you look at the total number of Bitcoin that's ever going to exist in the world, which is about 21 million Bitcoin, and you look at the number of people in the world, which is about 7.5 billion people, then what you come up with is a situation where if you were to have perfect distribution of all that Bitcoin divided by all the people in the world, then that would be about 2.5 millibits. So 1 millibit costs less than $7. So 2.5 millibits would be 7, 14, 18, you could just round up and say $20. So right now, if you had $20 of Bitcoin, then that would be just some position, some amount of, skin in the game that gives you a position, it gives you a hedge toward this technology actually becoming something. And so if you have $20 to spare, if you have $20 to throw away, if you have $20 to risk, then you could use our affiliate link to purchase that Bitcoin at Coinbase, which is mintingcoins.eth/buy. And then you can have a little bit of skin in the game instead of just sitting on the sidelines wondering, what the heck is actually going to happen. So with all of that being said, thanks for listening in. Thanks for being a part of this conversation. Let me know, what do you think about Ripple? You know, one of these strategies that a lot of the people in our circles have talked about is simply trying to buy a percentage of the total number of coins across each of these different cryptocurrencies. And a lot of people aren't believers in Ripple. They, they think Ripple is, a scam. They think it's manipulated. They think it's too centralized. They think it's an unfair bankers, version, this corporate version of, centralized money, right? It's not even really a blockchain technology. But a lot of people still want to have a percentage of all these different coins because they just recognize, all things being equal, there's just going to be a ton of money blowing into this cryptocurrency space. And even though they recognize that Bitcoin might be, the one true coin that will really consume the market caps of a lot of these less superior coins that just can't keep up in the development and that can't keep up in their uniqueness as Bitcoin takes over those features. But they still know that the money is going to get spread around and there's going to be huge gains on other coins that aren't the best coin. They want to take advantage of those gains so they can do what? So they can then go ahead and purchase more Bitcoin. So let me know, what do you think about Ripple? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you think it's a good risk to take or not? What do you think about all of this money coming into the marketplace and the possibility of just having a lot more volatility? And how long do you think that volatility is going to last? We see the number of miners in the world increasing, the number of investment capital increasing, the number of people using it increasing. So it's only a matter of time before it pops. I'd love to know what you think. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Hit that bell icon notification. Feel free to comment. And until next time, I'm glad that together we are minting coins.